Damn it. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what do we do?
So I'm with Eleanor Justice, and then we just kind of go from there. That's
Okay,
it. Like,
yay.
yeah, it's a conversation. You're a wonderful human being, and you
Aw.
do such cool stuff.
Thank you.
So
That's so kind of you.
You have like this very bubbly personality. So far, like we met 4 minutes ago, maybe, and it's just one of those things that like you're just super fun to be around, and I was really
Aw.
excited to see you today.
Yay. I was stoked to be here.
So,
Yeah.
and I finally understand. Like, once I finally understood what Mr. Sketchy's was beyond
Yeah.
the description, I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. And I think we're actually like, now that we did the first thing, because the franchise, really pushes the booze aspect, and it's like
Yeah.
it doesn't really fit with the space or the group that's doing it, so we're going to be pulling back on that part of the advertising, but people are welcome to.
Yeah.
But it's like none of the organizers are really going to be
Hammered.
boozing it up. Yeah. It's like it's not about being sloppy drunk and drawing, but it's about not being stressed.
Yeah, I was gonna say my apologies, Dr. Sketchy's. Let's get
It's
it
all
right.
good.
Let's get it right from there. So it is. So what is Dr. Sketchy's, and how'd you get into it?
Dr. Sketchy's Anti-Art School was founded by Molly Crabapple in, I think, 2005 or something. And she was a art school dropout.
Mm-hmm.
And she had also been like a professional model, like a life drawing model. But models in life drawing, at least back then, I think it's changing a little now, knock on wood, were sort of chattel. And it's like you're just an object, and shut up, take your money, and just be still.
Yeah.
And kind of treated like crap, and like it would be freezing. And she had to hold like a pose. I think it was a 2-hour pose once that like permanently ruined her wrist for like minimum wage.
Yeah.
And it's not, creative people in general, in aggregate, aren't usually valued by society, except for what society can extract from them. Like,
Right.
this is cool. We like this. We'll take this. And shush, go over there, weirdo. So she started this thing where it was like she essentially wanted to be able to have like a regular art party with her creative weirdo friends where they did stuff where it wasn't all stuffy, and like you didn't have to be fully educated practicing good. It's like
Right.
anybody, if you're drawing stick figures or if you're, Rembrandt level skill, you can be in the same place, doing the same thing, having fun, being very relaxed. And I essentially, I was looking for a way to, gather the creative people that I know in the area and outside of the area. Because I have like these different circles of friends. Like there's York friends, there's Baltimore friends, there's DC friends, there's Virginia friends. And Dr. Sketchy's is like a regular event that it would be fun to kind of like gather people together, and it's like, hey, yay, let's do this fun thing. I used to do photo shoots at the farm, sort of a similar thing. Like we did a Union of the Snake photo shoot where we had, professional photographers and professional models and a bunch of snakes.
Ooh.
Some friends who rescued snakes brought all these, wonderfully cozy, friendly snakes out, and we did like really cool photo shoots, and people were just creating all of this awesomeness. And that's kind of like the thing I like to do, is like create space in which people can do cool shit. Stuff. I'm sorry.
No,
Okay.
you can, it's the internet. I couldn't care.
Yay.
Nobody cares.
Okay, excellent.
No, that's yeah. Don't go to language. I couldn't give half a shit.
Phew. I got in trouble for saying "oh God" on my last appearance publicly, and it was like,
jeez.
"Oh fuck, I should." Oh shit! Ah.
Yeah, that's one of the weirder things. But that seems like such the like. Whatever. I have Irish heritage, I guess, and along like everybody does, and they have like there's that folklorish moment where everyone's like, okay, somebody starts strumming on a lute, and then suddenly the party starts, and everybody's and there's an explosive moment where everyone's creating in the same, in the same space, and it seems like it's one of those things where you just want to motivate that bubble, and it's so hard to do that because like. If you have 4 or 5 friends over and they're not all on the same, like on the same wavelength, maybe creative wise, like I'm definitely the weirdo out of all the people that I know, and to have people over here because I'm obsessed with Burroughs and his bunker. I don't want people to come over here and shoot up heroin with me. I want people to come over and like. Look, take your clothes off. I'm gonna shoot some instant photos of you. Whatever, that's fine. Like, it's not in a weird way. It's just like if the moment is activated in that sort of way, it's great,
Creating
and
art.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And then Because I saw the follow up photo shoot from Dr. Sketchy's, and it was really cool. You had a wonderful model in.
Oh
and
my gosh, Valeria is amazing, and I worked with her. She saved my butt a million years ago. I think it was 2010, actually. The way I met her was I had organized another one of those photo shoots. It's like, I want to do a fun thing with my friends. I was still in Baltimore. We had organized, and I'm assuming that it's okay to say we had organized a photo shoot at the Playhouse. So it was like we were going to have all this, interesting dungeon equipment and models and professional photographers. And we had one guy who was like top-notch photographer who was going to bring in his lights and show people how to use his lights. And I'm self-taught almost everything. So like the way I do stuff is like, oh, I'm interested in photography. Let me hang around people who know what the hell they're doing and pick up what I can learn from them. So I was creating these little things where I could do that. And we had bad weather, amusingly. Like bad weather in events is kind of like it happened with the Penn Street Art Bridge and all that kind of stuff. It was like, damn it. But we had this bad weather event, and so every single model bailed, but not all the photographers bailed. So I called up one of my friends and I was like, holy fuck, what do we do? And she was like, I'll be there in half an hour. I'll bring a friend of mine. And Valeria was one of the friends she brought. And she was just like, I have friends who have been models for a long time. And it's like, there's people who are like, they're comfortable in front of a camera. And then there's like skilled models where they like know angles and they know lighting and all that kind of stuff. And that was Valeria. And she just took the thing to a whole nother level. And then we worked again. We've hung out a little bit, but mainly it's like, hey, let's do creative stuff together. And then we did the Union of the Snake thing, and like her pictures from there, like the original Dr. Sketchy's flyer where she's like kissing a little rainbow python, whose name was Hyperion. He was a very sweet snake. That was from that event. And when I started, when I got the permission to do the Dr. Sketchies, because they're all franchises, like you have to pay to get the license, you have to pay a monthly fee, and all this kind of stuff. But you get the name, you get the structure, and you get to be a part of the main site. So when people are like, well, I live in Paris, but I'm visiting Philadelphia or Baltimore or somewhere, I want to know where the Dr. Sketchies is. So they just look on the site, and now York is a place where people can find a Dr. Sketchies. Ideally.
But
anyway,
Hey, hold that thought for just half a second.
I get one that matches my shirt.
Yes, you do. I'm gonna make this red one just I've been doing that yesterday. I wore that wore that sweatshirt out and I was just roaming around trying to find walls that I matched. It was just it was the silliest thing in the entire world because it's like that aquamarine color or whatever.
It's poolside color. Have you been to the Penn Street Art Bridge? Because there's some colors like that up there right now.
No, I haven't actually. I haven't been. Now that's a funnier thing. Actually, when I was younger, I actually grew up on Park Place, so I was around.
Oh wow, yeah.
And I'm old enough to remember back when we had it was just a wide bridge. They took it out and they put the zigzag. The fun zigzag, which totally makes sense now. I see why it's like it's handicap accessible. But anyway, so my dad and I would walk up there and we'd throw water balloons at the trains and stuff. And
that's so much fun.
I haven't been back in a while, but I keep seeing all the fun stuff that's going on there, and they're doing great stuff, and it gives people a canvas to do whatever they want.
Exactly, and it turns a situation where, because there's graffiti with air quotes around it. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. No, don't worry about it.
And people don't really appreciate street art as much as they should. But kids were getting in trouble for doing street art, and there was also an actual vandalism problem where it's like, if you're just scrawling obscenities in somebody's name with a marker, you're not really putting in the effort. I can see you getting in trouble for that. That does suck. But people couldn't cover it up, and it was a back and forth thing with the city, and it was like, well, why don't we just turn this into a gallery? And I got permission from the city to turn it into graffiti alley, so kids aren't going to get you're not going to enter the prison pipeline for trying to make some art, because that's a thing that actually happens. And it's like, that ruins lives. And it's like, it shouldn't ruin somebody's life to try to make something pretty. Yeah.
That's one of those like weird gray areas where, what is the difference between street art and just plain old graffiti? And it does be like, it is just in the connotation of it. Like if you're, absolutely. If you're drawing dicks on stuff, it's because you're being mean. Yeah. But
or not creative, or you don't know how and you're pissed.
Yeah. It's just, Yeah, I just don't know.
Yeah.
It gets because like I'm a big fan of Banksy. I saw that kind of styling in Matt. I think Matt Apel just posted something that reminded me super duper much of a Banksy piece. Not like a ripoff stuff. So
Yeah.
I gotta hit Matt up anyway. But not in that sense. But like, when does the street art?
Yeah.
When does the street art aesthetic become the aesthetic rather than the act?
And
Like, that's the other weird thing too.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap, and one of the things you need to do is like in permaculture, like the agriculture thing. It's not just sustainable but regenerative. The edges of things where things overlap are the most productive and vibrant and interesting areas, and that applies to culture as well. So it's like you're gonna have people who are doing a lot of crap.
Yeah.
But that's part of the thing. It's like that free speech thing. People are going to be dicks, but that doesn't mean you don't suffer the consequences for whatever that comes out of your mouth.
Yeah.
But it can come out of your mouth. You might get punched for being a Nazi, but at the same time, there's areas of overlap. You create a safe space for people to create.
Yeah, and that is the positive aspect of it, and it's like there is a lot of weeding out that you have to do, and it is creating its own tribe, and it like. That's such a good community, whatever you want to call it. I need to stop talking about primitives.
Of tribes.
Yeah.
What were those things called? Like the meetups where all the different tribes would come together.
War parties, raiding parties.
It was a creative thing where the tribes they would come together and like trade and like there would be some intermarriage and stuff.
There'd be fun stuff.
Yeah, overlap.
Yeah. Just it's that space when you put two circles together, and it's that space in the middle that looks like everything that everybody laughed at when they were kids.
Yeah. Well, the part of the Venn diagram where stuff overlaps is called the union.
Yeah.
And I just think that's so fucking sweet.
So, I was gonna say, you are not. You're a recent transplant or a constant transplant?
I don't even know how to answer. I have. Oh God, I apologize in advance for being one of those people, but I'm so freaking excited that I actually have ancestors who like left Ireland, moved to York, and are buried here somewhere.
Really?
Yeah, it was according to my heritage anyway. And one of my ancestors that I actually like. Have done some reading on that I super dig. My mom got into ancestor research, not in a genealogy way, but in a kind of a spiritual, you got to know what it's super woo. Anyway, one of the ancestors who I super dig was Augustine Herman. And he traded making a map, the first map of the Chesapeake region, including York, in exchange for a home. Wow. And it's like, holy shit, I really so resonate with that.
Yeah.
But he also did he did one of the first colonial maps that still had the Susquehannock village in place and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't even know about that until last year when I happened to cross it on the York history site. And it was like, holy shit, that's so cool.
Yeah.
But I came to York in 2011 as a blueberry farmer.
Oh.
Last thing anybody would expect.
I didn't know they grow. I honestly didn't know they grow here because I thought we were too hot in the summer.
No, they do. Although I don't know the status of the farm right now because it did have mummyberry virus and it was for sale. And I have not gone back there since I had to leave because it was so traumatic having to leave. It was part of a very bad breakup.
I'm sorry.
But it's okay. It's for the best because it's one of those like when you are in a partnership, you adjust your dreams to fit the other person's dreams, or you spend your time supporting the other person's dreams, and then you discover, oh wait, do I get a turn of getting supported? Dreams? And the answer is yes if you do it your damn self. If you're in the wrong relationship, anyway.
No, I get you.
So I came here as a blueberry farmer, and it sounds completely cuckoo bananas, but like the second I put my foot on the ground, I like fell in love with the land. Now, the land at the blueberry farm is exquisitely beautiful. Like it's 75 acres of just balls out gorgeousness with like 4 acres of blueberries on it. Like there's springs. It was like looking out the window. Any time of year was like watching a nature show, like getting into just walking around the woods, just like surrounded in ferns and dappled sunlight and freaking springs coming out of the ground. I mean, it was exquisitely beautiful. so it's like there's one aspect of like falling in love with the land, but it was something deeper than that. It was like, oh, I am on a path I am supposed to be on, and it has unfolded in that direction.
I gotcha.
Although it's awkward and sounds bonkers from the outside, but then so did Amazon before it was Amazon.
Yeah, that's the truth of it. It's like, no matter which way you explain it, if you get excited about it, people are gonna be like, "Oh, you're a weirdo," because everybody's so bitter and non-fun.
I'm so used to being called a weirdo that it's like, okay, you are not incorrect.
Yeah, I drive a truck and everybody but me hunts. So I try to stay out of my workplace as much as possible. I'm glad that I live. Yeah. I'm alone on the road. I'm fine with that. Yeah. It makes it easier for me. So no, I totally get that, and it's just the interest of like what brings people to this area, because there is something about it that it's it's the hip of. It's the hip of the Susquehanna and the Chesapeake and all the magic that is an inland port. And this is one of my sillier things is, look, water. There's something about water and bodies of water that just makes us all
and the Susquehanna is like one of the oldest rivers on the planet. Like it was here when Pangea was still a continent, and it's like there's something fucking magical about that, you know. And I frankly think that there's something like so many things that have like rippled out and affected like the rest of the nation at least, and often the rest of the world, have happened quietly in York, and York doesn't get doesn't get the credit for it, It's like, not that you need the credit for it to still have done it, but at the same time, I'd like to see more people appreciate York.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's there's so many, I was gonna say the Articles of Confederation were signed here. Let's be honest, it's the first capital of the United States.
Yep. It's the first Thanksgiving, which I think is like ripe, like at this time of the world. It's like there's some great potential for addressing some issues with that, because there's some good with it. It's like, yay, gratitude, but also a lot of bad that could be addressed. It's like this is an opportunity.
But it's just I feel like as a culture of people here, we just don't want to admit that anything wrong ever happened, and that like it's that fascination that I have with like people that you can see obvious faults in whatever it is they're doing, and they just no, there's no, like it's almost, it's the same. I'm of course stuck on it. But for a project, but conspiratorial thinking, where there's always a reason why it's not wrong. Yeah. And it's like, look, just calm, take a breath, and just accept it's okay. Like, look inside a little bit. It's not going to kill you. You're not going to wake up dead because you had to admit the fact that you're just not running in the right path, or that something's wrong. It's like, well, if something's wrong, now that we know about it, let's fix it.
Exactly. And I wonder, because I've never really spent time on the West Coast. I've only gotten as far west as Fargo. The weirdest fucking place to go. It's like Haiti, Fargo, and Canada. Okay. It's like, that's traveling. Okay. But I imagine from, the cultural inferences that one gets, that's much more of an East Coast issue. It's like people are fine with failing and fucking up and just like messing things up over and over and taking the value out of it. And it's like in this area, especially within like a 2-day drive of DC, I imagine, it's like things have to be good and right and perfect and like my country right or wrong. And it's like, no, that's not the way it actually works.
It's such a weird, like, that definitely culturally, artistically, everything is the East Coast has its own feel and the West Coast has its own feel, and I think it's just there's a progress that comes with the West Coast that we just haven't seen yet, and we're gonna get there because we have that big old buffer zone in the middle of a problem with communication flow. Yeah, it's like it's one of those things where folklore and personal beliefs will overtake actual factual knowledge, and people are fine with that.
Yeah, we like to think that we're very logical creatures, but I think that once you understand that we are not at all logical creatures, then you can bring logic into it more easily. Yeah. It's like recognizing how you're fucked up and knowing what your issues are can help you. It's like, at least go, am I looking at this in a really stupid one-sided way? And hopefully, if you're lucky enough to have people around you who will tell you, yes, you are being completely bonkers, or, well, there might be some issues here, or, no, it's cool. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and it becomes like it's not even and especially here we have this like here on the East Coast, like we have this pedantic nature of wanting to to finding something that was wrong and then going back to it, like somehow magically going back to it and fixing that before we fix anything else, when all we realistically needed to do was see what path led to that happening and then admit that you were wrong and then just deal with yourself and not falling back into that pattern of thinking. It's
identify the pattern, change the pattern.
Yeah. So it's like good Lord, of course. But it's like the loss of community in York, we spent 48 years now in a gray area of, interpersonal conflict and especially inner conflict and stuff that is entirely based off of one situation. When we can't go back and fix that, what we can do is recognize it and then continue to move forward, where we have all these great people that are saying, okay, instead of just flatly buying every building in a neighborhood, let's go into a neighborhood and say, hey, what can we do to fix this so that we're not, just giving you the boot and throwing you out. And we have like wonderful people, Matt and Kate, I had them on before, and they see that as the broader vision, because we had that around the time that you came up here, we had that super singular one lane only vision of let's
go ahead and gentrify stuff, because that cycle's working great everywhere else, like San Francisco and Seattle.
And it just it gets to be one of those things where, like, the only reason that I consistently complain about people ignoring the anniversary of Lily Bell Island is I grew up 2 blocks from it. I knew people that were involved with it. I knew people that were there that night, and I had to hear this. You hear the stories enough, and you hear the first-hand accounts, and you're like, okay, well, if this is shading your thinking of not going out at night, or if this is shading your thinking of what you're doing with your money, or why you want to get out of York and this, that, and the other, that's not what we're doing. What's going on now is this beautification of the objet doll that is York. Like, I see York as York is a person with a beating heart, and it has a beautiful soul that we've been stuffing into a dark hole because of old fears, and we're finally getting the people in and getting people involved that are willing to say, everybody is a part of this, but everybody is a molecule in this body. Let's get this body moving. Yep. So.
It's one of my personal goals. A quick aside: the Penn Street Art Bridge, right in front of it. I have a meeting with Helfrich in December, so fingers crossed that the stuff that was approved by the previous administration stays approved. But right in front of it, on the Penn Street side, will be the Lily Bell Peace Park. And it's going to be a little pocket park, which is essentially just a couple of benches and planters. But that's an area where so many people are cycling through every day.
Yeah.
And it's like, you look for places to lower barriers to community interaction. It's like, well, some benches there and some light would really make a space for people to hang out and gather. And then the community itself will organically build its own little meeting space. Because parks are, like, York has great parks and all that kind of fun stuff, but facilitating other places for people to just take a breather and interact is always good for people. And one of the other things I'm working on in conjunction with a larger overall vision is a community and land trust that will be taking properties, ideally, once we can get over the ignition challenge, we'll be taking properties off the speculative market in perpetuity, rehabbing them using a reality show model to actually rehab the houses so that there's no debt, and then putting them into the community land trust at a percentage of rent. So it's like if you've got a cottage industry where you've got, like, say, an artist who's got a studio in the bottom part and they're living in the top part, it's like, awesome, your rent, your lease is 10% of your profit or your revenue from this venture that you're doing. And then that way, when people start to really, really, break it in, it's like that incentivizes, it's like, awesome, rock on, make room for somebody else. And then you can have diffused low income housing throughout a community instead of like clustered in one area. So it's not like, ooh, don't go where the pores are,
Right.
you know. But it's also an alternative model to the gentrification cycle, which in conjunction with a few other things, we're hoping that we can, York can serve as a like a proof of concept of like, here's how you can have stuff where it's like, yes, there can be great investment and, incredible opportunities for traditional capitalism stuff. But there's also these other ways that are outside of government, outside of nonprofit, that are community owned, that break the cycle, that just grinds everything. It's like, okay, let's maximize profit, externalize costs. Oh shit, now everybody's got to deal with the repercussions of like the $5,000 rent on a studio apartment.
Yeah, $1,700 a month is twice what I pay to own this place.
Yeah,
and it's just not like it seems like we're not conducive to anything but the business aspect of it, and it's like. Yeah, but the people fill the positions. The people fill the the spaces that you're making. There you need to bring people in. Well, if we're not going to have we have an architectural firm that somebody young could come in and make some actual money. Lawyerships are great around here because we have a lot of crime and a lot of family issues. But that's about it. Work for the baseball or work management for the baseball team.
Yeah. And if there were better when like the fiber pipeline is here, like the people will be able to, you'll be able to work, commute, all that, whatever. Work out of your place. But at the same time, it's like a culture, like the areas like, Austin or Portland or stuff like that. You have these clusters of different, I don't like to say subculture, but I guess that's what people would see. It's like you have all the creative people, all the artists, the makers, the people who make a place cool. And then you have money interests who go, ooh, there's all of this activity there. Let's go extract that value. Except they're not returning the value, and they extract all the value to the point where the people who are creating the value can't stay there. So the value generators have to leave.
Yeah.
And then the place dies. And it seems so simple from the outside. It's like, you guys, why don't we stop this?
Yeah.
But, it takes dollars and intention. And
it reminds me of, this is the weirdest example I have, but at one point in the Vulture mine, which was a very, very gold-laden mine in the early 1800s that was discovered, at one point they started mining these support structures. And there was a cave-in, and 17 miners died because they were so hungry for the gold that was in it and the silver that was in it that they collapsed it on themselves. And it seems like that's
exactly
kind of
the thing.
You're mining the great things about what makes your thing. Go to Manhattan at any go to Manhattan right now. We can walk from corner to corner, and from corner to corner you've got people set up selling you mass market art. Because that's what Soho was all about, or that's what Chelsea was all about. And it's like, you can buy punk rock t-shirts in Chelsea. Okay, that's cool, but it becomes its own trap where it's like, if nothing new's coming, nobody's going to come. It's silly.
And if there's no place for the people who are, and I don't know how to say it in a better way, but if you have no place for the people who are building the soul of a community, that are, they're the ones who are making the place have a heart, It's like, if you're ripping the heart out of a thing, how long do you expect it to survive?
Yeah.
So.
And it's just like, there's no real there seems like there's no real polite way to say it, but it is the truth. Like the parts and pieces that keep the parts and pieces moving, those are super you might not want to hang out with everybody that's just sweeping up a factory floor, but they matter. And we can't
you might, because it's like the people who, like, I am uneducated. That doesn't mean I'm unwise. That doesn't mean, it's like, just because I don't have a formal education doesn't mean I'm a complete idiot. I'm not a complete idiot. There's a lot of stuff I need to know. But it's like, what somebody does is not at all who they are.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're lucky, sure, but very few people get to do that. And it's like the assumption that because somebody's scrubbing a toilet, they're not worthy of the
Yeah.
same, it just, that pisses me off.
No, I agree, and it's like it's such it's like it's the doldrums of nonsense where it's like, okay, well, just because what was that? What was that old black and white movie about the guy? He was like his father ran a town. It was like the where Art Nouveau came from. Oh dear God, I can't remember right
Not
this second.
Metropolis, not Citizen Kane.
No, I'm
was
thinking
Metropolis?
I am
Okay.
thinking of Metropolis,
Okay.
where the whole morality tale of Metropolis was, all the people that are running this, you're killing them, you're killing their families, you're just for the sake of running this so that I can be warm. Well, I matter, they matter, and
Yeah.
we matter the same. It's not a question of I matter more. It's a question of
Every person is a person. I wish I could remember how to say it in Creole. My mom used to do a lot of like social justice stuff. Used to do a lot of social justice stuff. My middle name used to be Justice. My last name is Justice because when I got divorced, it was like, I'm not going to keep anybody else's name. Fuck this. But so like I was raised with, these very progressive ideas in the middle of, first small town North Carolina. And
Yeah.
then we escaped there after shenanigans occurred. It was like my first year in public school. It was like, what the fuck is wrong with everybody? I'm so confused. Like, what are we talking about with race here?
oh
But
God,
I had no idea.
You can't be that old. There's no way. There's no way you're old enough for that to have mattered. No, don't know.
Yeah.
No way.
It was in the 70s.
No.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm very flattered. But yeah, should be a lot more grown up than I am right now.
Well, yeah, I could make that assignation as well.
But
yeah,
because
no.
I didn't understand the like rules of society, so I was just being friends with everybody.
Yeah.
And first, I got my ass kicked by the white girls, and I got my ass kicked by the black girls, and then I got reamed out by the teacher. Like one of my most terrifying experiences was her sitting me down with her big red claw nails and like, we do not associate with those people. And it's like, what people are you fucking? I'm so confused. It was so horrible.
Yeah.
It was so horrible.
Oh my dear God. Okay. So now that we've established something I won't say aloud, which is you're not 30, which is what I would have guessed.
Oh,
100%.
You're so fucking sweet. Yeah, no, I am not 30.
But either way, yeah. So let's take a moment and step back. So
Okay.
what's your whole thing? Like, how has life been for you? Where did it start, and what like?
Oh wow.
Yeah, where'd you go? How'd you become who you
all over
are?
the fucking place. Let's see. Well, I was born a minister's daughter. Except he was batshit crazy and left the family and wouldn't pay child support. So I was pretty much released from the assumptions of organized religion being the way to judge your life. It's like, okay, yay, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
My mom was people joke now. It's like social justice warrior is a slur, but it's like that's how I always described her because it's like she faced down machine gun toting McCoots to count votes in Haiti.
Oh my God.
And she was like, yeah, you can shoot me, motherfucker, but I'm going to count these votes. It's like what you choose to do is your choice. What I choose to do is my choice. I'm choosing to be in the right way. So like that is the person who like influenced my worldview, but at the same time, I was trying, like in my 20s, I got married at 19 because I'm an idiot, and divorced by 30.
That's statistically huge. For that 10 years, good Lord.
Yeah,
9 to 10 years, you're kicking ass.
I tried to do the way you're supposed to live your life. Like I had a 9-to-5 job with a nice salary that was more than I should have had without an education. And that's one of the things. It's like I would always end up in situations where it's like, awesome, we're going to put you up into this next realm of stuff and put you in management. And okay, where's your degree from? And it's like, it's from nowhere. I have no degree. Oh, okay. Never mind. We rescind the offer. And it's like, okay, kiss my ass. Bye.
Yeah.
But then I got fed up with the situation of like, there's no point. It's like people are not here to pay bills and die. It's like there's a bigger reason to this. I felt like I was contributing more than the average person to the problem because I knew that other ways were possible, but I didn't know how to make them possible. And I would daydream about, like, wouldn't it be awesome to just like have, and now I know the words are intentional communities. Like, I didn't have the language for a lot of stuff. Like, I was trying to describe creative placemaking for like a decade before I ever saw the phrase. And it was like, fuck, that's so much faster than trying to describe how these cascade effects impact everything in an area. But like, I would daydream about like having essentially like a commune with all of my creative weirdo friends, and we could just do what we wanted to do and not hurt anybody. But just people could come in from the outside and be entertained and then go away, grow our own stuff, all that kind of fun stuff. But that was like a very early aspect of like the removing people from society to keep them safe. And there is no such thing. Like, when I got married, my ex-husband and I, we used to like daydream about like we would get the sustainable property, and we'd go to West Virginia because you could build anything there, and like you could do natural building and stuff like that. And then after we were married, we were talking, like serious plans and stuff. And I'm like, okay, definitely want to get like heritage breed goats and all this other kind of stuff. And I'm going to need to learn how to make soap. And he's like, and we're going to have a bunker for the guns. And it was like, oh, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
We are looking at the same thing from completely different directions. This will never work. Okay, just put that dream in a box and put it in the back of the closet and shut up.
Yeah.
And then when we got divorced and I bought my condo because it was cheaper to purchase a condo than rent a place, because I had a puppy. I had a 100-pound not a Rottweiler, a pit bull. She was very, very sweet. I had my Rottweiler at the farm. But it was cheaper to buy than rent, and my mom yelled at me for purchasing a property because you can't own land. And it was like, I know, but nobody's made the structures so that you cannot own land and not be homeless. And then after I had tried to, continue to do life the way you're supposed to, and it was just eating my fucking soul. It was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm gonna sell my condo. I'm going to move to New Orleans. At that time, I had the plan to move to New Orleans. I'm going to like do energy work and work in a coffee shop and figure out what I want to do. But for now, it's like, I'm not going to participate in this stupid fucking game. I'm not going to do, design for Airbus. I'm not going to do it. This was just a couple of years ago, but I am so sorry, world. I did one of Exxon's Earth Day logos so that I could put gas in my tank. And it's one of those things where it's like, no, there need to be other fucking ways.
Yeah.
And then last minute, I had this gut instinct that was like, don't move to New Orleans. And it was like, okay, I don't understand why. It doesn't make any sense. But I've learned long ago, when your gut says something, you fucking listen or you'll regret it. Because my gut had also said, don't walk down the aisle on my wedding day, but I would have gotten in so much trouble.
Yeah.
But so I didn't move to New Orleans. And in a month, I think it was like a month or two afterwards, there was Katrina.
Oh, yeah.
And it pretty much obliterated the place I would have been leaving. And it's like, good luck with me escaping a freaking... It's like, that would have just been... I would have been dead. I would have totally been dead. But I... Instead, I moved to Baltimore because it was like, well, it's close enough. I'll still see my mom and stuff. My friends... I had friends in both areas. And accidentally fell in love. It wasn't supposed to be a thing. A one-night stand turned into a 9-year relationship. We lived together. Yeah, it was a whole bunch of stuff. 9 years is kind of like the thing.
Yeah, apparently.
But it was great for the first little tiny bit of time, and then it got super challenging. But I didn't understand. I hadn't completely learned a few life lessons that I thought I had learned, and I was still not recognizing like patterns of martyr bullshit. So it was like, sure, and the breakup was really horrible. So I'm still a little jaded. So some of the stuff that I think about with that thing are too colored to bring up, but I essentially helped someone transform who they were completely. And I'm really happy that was able to happen. But at the same time, it was a lot of emotional labor.
Yeah.
And we had broken up and I had gotten convinced. We'd gotten back together and we were giving it a test run, and they came home from work being a complete jackass. And it was like, if this is how it's going to be every day, you coming home from work and you're taking out all the shit you're dealing with on me, this is not going to work. So I'm going to go find us an alternative to living in Baltimore City. And I went online and magically found a caretaking job at a blueberry farm, which is like so fucking random. And there was no money,
Yeah.
but it was like you get to live in paradise for free. And it was like, well, shit, I've been like reading about permaculture and all these things for ages and haven't been able to do them. It's like I would have a little garden in my back on the cement patio in Baltimore, and people like, I had this giant, I mean, it had to be like 50-gallon planter that a friend had given me. And I had a green zebra tomato in it. And I had read about green zebras, and I finally got to like grow a green zebra, and somebody took the plant.
Oh,
the
geez.
whole thing. Like, it was one of those like, I am so pissed and sad, but at the same time, that required so much effort
Yeah.
that I kind of can't. It's you had to really want it, you know. It's like
Yeah.
it's sort of like, and this is a horrible example, but it's what popped in my head. It's like if somebody kidnapped a dog for fighting versus kidnapped a dog because they were in love with that dog or something. It was like, this is the sweetest dog. I have to like, we're gonna go live in a farm and like let him run around and be happy. It was like I would rather the farm than the fighting. So I assume that that's what happened with the tomato plant. Anyway, so we moved to the blueberry farm, fell in love with York, was trying to learn, you know, like getting a chance to do some of the stuff like hugelkultur. I'd never gotten to do hugelkultur before.
What is that?
Oh my God. Okay. Hugelkultur is, it pisses me off that industrial agriculture is not using hugelkultur because it is a technique that is low fucking labor, that extends the growing period on two sides, and you don't irrigate. So you can grow crops without irrigation for longer of the year with less labor. And it's one of those things of, why the fuck isn't anybody doing this? So I thought I would give it a shot.
Yeah.
And it does actually work. It looks a little messy, kind of. But at the same time, it's like, okay, do you want it to be tidy or do you want to not have a water crisis? Suck it up. Let it be a little messy.
Yeah. So, well, yeah.
Sorry, we got way off.
No. My wife's really awesome with plants, and that's like one of those things that I totally missed out on. There's all kinds of different information in my head. Understanding what plants are or why I shouldn't mow them all down is not in there. But so like, to just explain that to me really quick. So in hugelkultur, is it like one row of plants are specific because they affect the next one, or like the not irrigating?
Well, that's
the not
interplanting.
irrigating thing.
The hugelkultur is essentially you're creating a sponge out of logs. So like some people, the way I did it was we dug down. I think we did 4 feet, so that it would be pretty and wouldn't be big, huge mounds of stuff. Hugelkultur means forest culture, which is like you're mimicking the forest floor where it's very absorbent. And you put big, huge logs, and then smaller branches and other kinds of biomass and leaves and stuff. And then you put dirt over that. And what happens is the log starts to act as a sponge. As it decays, first it's going to suck some nitrogen. Like the first 2 years, you're gonna have, you might need to add nitrogen or be careful, you know, like put a nitrogen fixing plant in there. But essentially it's just the way of preparing the ground that the stuff grows in. You can grow anything in it.
Oh, okay.
And you can make it as big as you want. I haven't really experimented with it on a small scale. I mean, it was one garden, but it's like, I think it could probably work in some big pots. I don't know. I haven't tried it yet. But essentially you're just making a sponge. So like when it's super rainy, instead of all your plants getting waterlogged, the wood and the biomass that's decaying absorbs it. And because it's decaying, it's creating, you know, heat. And so it's warming the soil and it's extending the growing season earlier and later. And the beds, they last 10 to 15 years. So it's like, sure, you got to redo it once in a while, but no irrigation.
Yeah. That's really fascinating. And you know, I would have never known anything about that, and now I'm gonna go explore the life out of it.
I highly recommend checking out Sepp Holzer. His book Sepp Holzer Permaculture is awesome. He's got a farm, the Kremeterhof or something. Kremeterhof, I don't know how to pronounce it. He's got a farm in the Alps that was essentially rocks and snakes, and he's growing citrus in the fucking Alps.
Wow.
And like fish and all this other kind of stuff. But like he does a huge, he goes around the world at this point and like sets up other ecosystems for people.
That's
and
cool.
They're beautiful and productive. And I mean, there's little things that you have to do, but like input of maintenance versus output of produce and animals and all the stuff is like hugely disproportionate. It's a good kind of asymmetrical, as opposed to the asymmetrical we're used to in this country.
Well, well, that's the thing is like it makes more sense that way. I forget who I was. I don't know. I researched somebody at some point and I totally forgot what that even matters to this conversation or not. But it was the idea of rather than instead of having farms where it's an industrial farm where you're
the monocultures.
You plant your field and then the next time you plant something different in that field and you switch them around and all that stuff. It's you create the entire environment around it because it's not. Obviously, it's not going to be something that's going to feed 1 million people, but it will be enough to keep you sustained.
Yeah.
On even the smallest tracts of land, you can do that, which is like, definitely like around here. I know a lot of folks, especially my age or a little younger, are getting into every springtime right after Mother's Day. They plant, they fill a suitcase full of dirt that they saw on Pinterest and then they grow some tomatoes and peppers out of it, and it's pretty cool. I tried it once. It worked. It was great.
Yay.
And it was, of course, it looked good. But like, that's the other thing is we went up to my wife's uncle's cabin and we went to the elk conservatory up there because he lives right next to Elk County. And or the cabin's next to Elk County, and we were there, and we took the wagon trail or whatever, and they were like, yeah, we plant, the plants that we put in, we do farm some of this land specifically because it's what they graze on and it's what they like, and it keeps the environment like going. It's not, we're not growing corn to go sell at a farm stand. We're just, we plant the stuff that the elk like, and that's really, people don't really consider the amount of things that you can do with farming, even in a sense that like, it doesn't have to be something high production. It doesn't have to be something for any, you don't really need to tear up your entire yard and put in tomato boxes. You can do all kinds of little things that make it all work. And
you can plant your tomatoes in with flowers. Like, if you look at like the French castles, the potager, I don't know. I've only read it. I've never heard somebody talk about it. But the gardens that they used to do, where it was all interplanted vegetables and fruits and flowers and stuff like that. And they were freaking gorgeous. Absolutely beautiful. It's like, first we have all these assumptions about what farming is that are very, they're very European and very production based as opposed to sustainable or regenerative. And there's so many different varieties. There's so many different ways to do stuff out there that it's like you just don't hear about it because you think farming and you think kind of an older guy with a big belly in overalls and there's a chicken somewhere. Chickens are awesome. I'm so glad that people are into chickens these days.
Yeah.
I don't want scientists to make them bigger though, because as anybody with chicken knows, that they're terrifying little omnivores.
No, yeah, they're I think they're definitely as big as they get. I don't know if you ever researched that. That was a push from World War II where we needed to get a bird that we could send over to feed our troops, and they were like, all right, so anyone that doesn't believe in genetic engineering as it's misconcepted as, chickens that you eat today came from a farmer back in 1943 who managed to get the genealogy right to make these giant chickens that make these giant eggs. The chicken that you eat in a McDonald's chicken sandwich today is in the same bloodline genetically as those two chickens, because he did it right, and that's genetic engineering.
Unless you're using heritage breeds, which I highly recommend. And like the first time, and this was both a traumatic and very enlightening experience because I had chickens at the farm, because I'd wanted chickens for like decades, and I finally got chickens, and it was even better than I thought. But one Ostara, like I don't follow any particular path, but I like, when like a particular day is happening, it's like, oh, there's extra symbolism to this particular day. And I had this a Polish hen, the hens that have like the big fluffy we couldn't let her out. Like we had a big coop, but it's like we couldn't let her out unattended because she couldn't see any, like a fox could walk up to her and go hi and eat her, and she'd be like, where's the voice coming from? I mean, it was like not just hawks, but like anything. So she mainly stayed in the hen house. And I walked in on one star and she laid an egg right in front of me, and I was like, oh, this is so special. And then one of my roosters ran over and ate it, and I was like, oh shit. Because once a chicken starts eating eggs, they're like, oh, this is delicious. And they will not stop. I mean, there's stuff you can do, but it's like, it's problematic. But I also had 3 roosters. And he was one of my first, and he was really big. Mm-hmm. And you could see where it's going.
He bled you, didn't
he? Yeah,
short, he bled you, and then you bled him.
Well, he didn't bleed me. He was and that's the thing that was rough. There was like, I had these, like, you could cuddle my chickens.
Yeah.
So it was darker, but it's like I took responsibility for it. And when we had a cake was made for him. Like, we made a special meal and all this. It was horrible. But also, it was so different than any chicken that it was purple. And the texture was more like, it was like, what the fuck are we eating? Because it was so good. I mean, Rory, you were the best turkey. Not turkey, rooster. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, they're super. That's the thing is, like, I was vegetarian at one point, and it wasn't for any reason apart from me needing to get back in shape. Mm-hmm. And like I do absolutely have empathy for animals, but I understand the necessity more than anything. Like,
we just need to change the industrial system.
Yes.
And it's so funny because it's like, I have friends who are all over the meat spectrum or non-meat spectrum. And a couple of vegetarian friends and I have had conversations, and they're like, you're so compassionate. Why do you still eat meat? And it's like, frankly, because plants suffer too. It's like, I am such a flake. I am such a fucking flake. And I know this, but it's like, just try to reduce the suffering in the system. And, be grateful for this stuff that exists. And it's this whole big thing.
Well, being from here, I've known people that have had, I've known dairy, like the sign that you walk past in the front door. Yeah. That's my wife's family's dairy farm from 100 some odd plus years ago, 1897, I believe. But it was, the last time they had, cows there, whatever, it was a long time ago. Yeah. But all the cows got sick. They lost the herd. Then they just had a really nice farm.
Yeah.
And then the farm got sold. Bummer.
That tends to happen with family farms when you're doing a land-based system that's all about investment instead of about sustainability. That was the issue, and it wasn't family-based in the sense that, like, the 2 people that ended up owning it, wonderful human beings, they didn't have kids. Yeah. And that was the other problem. Yeah. Was that then the ownership went to family, cousins, nephews, nieces, brothers, sisters, and all of them have different ideals. Yeah. So I totally get that. Anyway, rough, sore story. But so anyway, that is the thing with, like, the idea that it's somehow less cruel to eat salad and fruit and vegetables. It's like, okay, I go to Morningstar, and my the farm stand that I get from, I know every person there, super congenial, super wonderful human beings. I cannot remember the name of the farm, but they're all running it. They have help. They hire help on, and guess what? That is not easy work for anybody in that situation. Yeah. And then if you you take a drive west for 40 minutes, that apple that you're eating to save an animal's life. How much gas did you use? You're using the roads.
Well, Hector had to live in a concrete building on an orchard with 4 other family members in a room half the size of the one that we're sitting in, so they could make $3.25 an hour.
The whole system needs revamping.
Yeah, it's like, that's the thing is, don't use cruelty. Don't use it's cruel. Farming sucks. Farming sucks, but
industrial
so do we.
Farming. Yeah. Industrial farming sucks. Yeah, because it's like there are, like, especially, like, think fucking God for the internet and YouTube. Like, seriously, it's one of those things where it's like, you guys didn't know what you were doing when you let everybody have the internet. Yay. But it's like, now ideas can spread so much faster, and there's so many different places that are doing, like, the biointensive stuff, or, like, when you're doing a rotation farming system and you're using animals, like, pigs can plow land way less destructively than a tractor can. And then you bring in the chickens, and then like animals are a part of the system. And when it's more holistic, and when it's regenerative, and it's not based on maximizing quarterly profit, then you can change the way that things are done. And maybe you just have animals that are part of your farming system, and you're not eating them. Maybe when they get old or something, you do. Like, there's a bunch of different ways to do stuff.
Yeah,
we just need to explore more of them.
I completely agree. It's one of those things that, like, it's a long story. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Farming in the New World, farming in the old, in Europe, in the old world when we were culturally existing, like, yeah, it goes back a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And old traditions are, like, now we have the ability to communicate and say, hey, look, this doesn't work too well. Let's fix it. And then the other problem, the only problem that I see with the internet is the expectation of instant results.
Well, there is that. Yeah, that's
And
a human.
it's not like it's never going to be an instant result, especially with farming. It's like, okay, so we realized that after planting soybeans for 5 years, we've sucked the nitrogen out of this ground, and now we have to do nitrogen therapy on this field, and now I cannot. The other biggest thing is this, like, the expectation of subsidies that came with the New Deal and all that, and like, we think that farmers are safe, and you see an average family farm, like the one that we were speaking of earlier. That was forget what the acreage was, but it was $1 million out of a man who does not have an education's pocket, out of a bank's vault.
Yeah.
And he has that farm, and he has all the farms that surround it, and he has a lot of land, and he leases some land, and he does this and this and this, and he does shows for, like, he had to grow an entire field of soy for the sake of a German tractor company coming in and doing a demo. And like, the ability for him just to wake up and go take some corn down for his kids and go slaughter a chicken for his, it's like, it's not there. And it's not one of those things where, like, you can go through Michigan and drive past any of the poultry farms. They're terrifying. And
there's about to be a whole bunch more in York. Did you know about that?
No.
It's a rumor. This is just a rumor. But 3 different very large farms were bought up by the same gentleman who also does a lot of industrial farming in Lancaster. And so there's some great concern about these, used to be family farms are about to possibly be.
I was going to say, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But yeah, the farming situation is completely different.
It's one of those odd things where, like, my dad lives out in Hellam, and the last time that a farm was bought, it was bought by a consortium, and that consortium hires a farmer on to go out and plow the land and do all that
in a way that's maximized for quarterly profits to the shareholders. But it's like, people forget or never knew. Most people never knew that, like, when the first immigrants landed on the shores here, when we were like, hey, look at all this free land, you guys, we were landing in what was already a farming situation. Like, it was essentially food for us. It's like, this was working in harmony with nature to make sure there was enough for nature and some for people. Yeah. It's like, it's not a binary way to look at it. You can't go, okay, I'm going to put this X seed in here, and then I'm going to get Y amount of corn for me and my family and nobody else. Like, that's not how it works. But you can create systems. It's like, the first thing I tried when the blueberry farm went up for sale was, without internet access, I tried to do a crowdfunding campaign to turn it into a food forest and sculpture garden. So it's like, you could get, maybe like this tourist attraction where people would come and see, like, oh, there's ways of producing stuff, and there's other kinds of food we'd never even heard of. It's like, here's a medlar. It looks disgusting. It's supposed to taste great. I've never tasted one because there's not a bunch around here. And like, growing things that weren't, normal crops, like acorns. You can make flour out of acorns. And it's like, there are years that you don't get a crop, but you also have, what's 100-year tree situation. It's like, you've got these different ways of doing stuff that are possible. And I gave that a shot, and that sort of set me on the path that I'm on now, which is super weird. I like that you're just as all over the place as like I am, because when I go into work, I'm behind the wheel and I'm making phone calls, I'm sending messages and doing everything that I need to do for this while I'm there, which is nice. But it's like 100 hours of my week gets eaten up, and it's like, well, I like it that way, it's just, but so yeah, that's wonderful. I appreciate that. That's all so much new information that, like, oh yay,
it's
Yeah, when you're looking into permaculture, check out Sepp Holzer and Paul Wheaton, especially. And there's a website called permies.com that it's, like the design is not, it's not for design. It's not aesthetically amazing.
No, I get you.
But the content is great. And it's got a whole bunch of people they are fucking serious about their permaculture. But if you need to find a question about stuff, like I tried to get the owner of the farm to let me plant forage or fodder radishes in the field to try to aerate the soil and create like a mini hugelkultur thing where it would hold onto the water, because it's like that fucking field had been bombed, like chemically bombed for so long. Like when I got there, I was asking her, it's like, okay, so what do we do to keep the birds from the berries? And she's like, oh, the birds don't eat the berries. And it's like, we won't either this year. It's like, that's fucking terrifying. And after I declined her invitation to use Roundup on the food that people were eating and picking off the bushes with their fucking hands and putting right in their face. It's like, oh, that's so unethical, man. No, we won't do that. Also, we don't have insurance. So when we get cancer from this product, there's nothing we can... Not that you automatically get cancer from a Monsanto product.
No. I'm not pro either way. I think there's more. I think there's so much more to the information that's there that it's like, okay, if you're gonna like, it's one of those things where like a friend joins Antifa and that friend never leaves the house. Okay, and it's like, okay, well, you're Antifa now. I get it. But what do you have to back that up? Like what do you?
And Antifa's not even an organization. It's just a concept.
It's just
it's like, are you punching Nazis that come to your door? Like, how does this work?
Yeah, no, and it's one of those things. Like, I agree. It takes like I have such a sociological mind that I dig and I dig and I dig, and then. And then after I dig, I'm willing to throw an opinion out. It's like, just
well, you need to have an aggregate to look at it and identify the patterns and then make opinions and all that.
No, I agree with that. But I don't,
diversity of input.
I still don't think fluoride in the water is all that big of a thing. But no, and I was going to say, so that was the other thing that was the other last thought I had on permaculture was that, did you know, we brought up the Susquehannocks earlier, William Penn signed the treatise with them that goes all the way out to, sorry, Jess, I can't remember exactly what you told me, but it goes out to like the edge, like halfway into Franklin County, and then up a little bit, and then it comes across the river, and then back down to the state line. So it's a big bit, and they gave that to the Susquehannocks in the late 1600s, and they treatised for it because the Susquehannock had been growing specific plants in the forest because I mean, even if you go out to like Schaefer's Rock, it's a very dense forest. They'd been making sure that the game would come and the game would stay. Yeah. So even back then they were looking at it from not from a let's mow it all down and make sure we have food. It's like no, let's make sure that this environment stays the right way so that the food comes.
Exactly. And that's I think that's what I like to do. This may be a big jump, a conceptual jump, but that's kind of like what I like to do in all situations. It's like, do we want to have a lot of creative people in York doing creative stuff? And we already do, but it's like, let's create a forest environment where they can thrive and stay in their house and do the stuff that they're doing instead of having to go off and work in a 9-to-5 office. Like those kind of situations. You know, like I like to cultivate environments and create spaces in which other people can do epic shit.
Yeah, that's a really good way to I do agree with you, and I do understand, like, that's a really good way to put it, because if it's not in order, like, if say I made an excellent I really love screen printing. So say I made a really beautiful bold graphic for somebody and printed it, and it was a flyer for a show. I do 150 of them, and I make X amount of dollars to get me through the month. And then what? And then it's like, well, okay, well, we see your work here. We need it over here too. And it's like, there is that thing where you can definitely do that, and it feels great, and it feels natural and awesome. And then there's like that, like, when does it become you're an artist for the state? Yeah,
exactly. And it's like, and this may be, I don't know, this may be a controversial topic. I don't know, but I am not, like, I, for one, welcome our robot overlords. But there are these converging macro trends that it's one of these things. It's like, you guys see this, right? Is everybody freaking out about this or not? Like the combination of AI and 3D, like additive manufacturing, are about to change. Like, jobs are gonna fucking go away, man. Like, we
Yeah.
need different structures really fucking fast. And like UBI, like universal basic income, or it's either universal basic income or unconditional basic income, and it's like, it ain't coming from the government. Good luck with that. It ain't coming from, you know, most traditional capitalist corporations.
Right.
But I do think it's very fucking necessary to start exploring some of these ways where you can have like the machine that is taking value away from people, giving something back to those people, so that you are not extracting everything and then collapsing. That you're not, you know, you're not raising the forest and then, okay, where are the deer? It's like, well, dumbass, you just cut down everything that they would go for.
Yeah, I completely agree. Actually, let's stay with that thought, but I gotta go pee. So, no, yeah, we were talking about, I didn't mean to interrupt, but we were talking about universal basic income, and I do fully agree with that, because I'm in an industry that is driving. Like
And you know about the electric trucks that you can have a convoy with one?
Yeah, I'm well aware.
It's like, holy shit, that's so fast. And it's like, they're about to not even need one guy for a convoy.
Yeah, that's one of those things that, like, people, anybody that doesn't pay attention to this kind of stuff all that much, but like, you remember the vehicles in old Logan, the Wolverine, movie about Wolverine? That's those.
Yep.
And, you know, is it going to come that quick here? I doubt it. I agree that it's going to come, and it will. By the time it does hit us, it's going to feel like it was in a flash.
Yeah.
But like, we have drivers that freak out, you know, that will get in these like crazy InfoWars conversations about it, and they're ridiculous. But, you know, it's like, okay, well, if you're, you know, I'm talking about a 50-year-old driver. If you're 50 now, you're golden. You're going to hit 65 and it's going to be A-okay. You know, you're gonna retire by the time it's even implemented, and you're fine.
If you have a retirement plan.
Well, yeah, if you paid attention to that kind of stuff. But you know, even at my age of 32, I've still got 33 years to go. I'd say by that time, it'll be here. It's gonna be here.
Oh,
I'd say 25 years at the max, but
I think it would be amazing if it took that long. Like, because we've got so many. Really? Okay. So let me break this down for anybody who is as ridiculously finicky as I am. So electric vehicles 100% should be the only vehicles on the road. Okay. So let's start with those. Tesla decided to make, you can buy a Tesla S. You can download the package. Tesla S will drive your car at 45 miles an hour. It's wonderful. Okay. Sweden, Denmark, Germany, they are testing electric trucks at this, or self-driving electric trucks at this very moment. It works out over there because their trucks are shorter and their wheelbases are smaller, and they were smart enough that they are such they're such a long existing place that they made industry hubs. So unlike here, where you're going to drop off at the old York Wire Company, which is down there off of Philly, you got to make some hard, weird, goofy turns. Yeah.
Unlike that, over there they have these big, swaths of land that are industrial specific, so they can their parameters over there work. They're also more willing to deal with their own infrastructure. They're also more willing to advance their infrastructure, like
the solar roadways and stuff?
Yeah, like the glass roadways, all the stuff that they develop over there that we don't have. The reason we don't have it is
subsidies and regulatory capture.
No, believe it or not, the reason that we don't have it now is still an after effect of unionization after the New Deal. So thanks, Roosevelt. So what the issue is that if they decide to go on anything that's going to, like, so our roads are terrible. Most, especially in Pennsylvania, they're terrible. They're poorly maintained. They're garbage in the snow. For us to make the leap to something new, we're going to have to get out of the old brain of, okay, well, I have a contract for X, and I have 300 guys that are going to get paid from X, and I'm going to get paid from X, and then I need to make sure that I waste enough time to make sure that it looks like it was worth that it was worth me doing it.
Yeah.
So once we get rid of those old traditions, which are going to take forever because some of our unions are stronger than you would ever believe, once we get rid of that kind of thinking, Yeah, it'll be in a
Well,
flash.
but then you also have the issue of regulatory capture, where you have oil industry, and like you have people whose interests are not the common good
Yeah.
who are in governmental positions. It's like the revolving door, like the guy
yeah.
with the USDA and Monsanto back and forth.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
that's not fucking cool, man. That's not okay. And there's a lot of stuff where it's like you have lobbyists who, it's like, oh shit, I'm blanking on the guy, but he was like, I can't vote this way because the guys said either make this happen or don't ever call me for contributions again.
Yeah.
So it's like we have, it's not a binary, it's like binary thinking is probably the root of all evil. It's like,
yeah.
it's not money, and it's not ignorance, but it's like there's complexities going on there, but definitely the regulatory capture is a huge fucking issue.
Yeah.
And people being terrified of being the one to make a mistake, which means if you're not fucking up, you're not trying new stuff. And like you have to, and I wish somebody had told me this as a kid. It's like, no, failure is not the worst thing on the planet. Failure does not mean you're going to burst into flame. Failure doesn't mean that guys in white suits with clipboards are going to come and shoot everybody that you love. It's okay to fucking fail because that means you're trying stuff new. Ideally, that means you're trying stuff new and you're not just an idiot and you can't do anything right. So it's like, it's trying, it's somewhere between those. But, especially when people are like, you have a campaign cycle that's based on, it's like, that's a whole big thing. It's like, there's a lot of super fucksword stuff out there that has to change for that to happen. But I think that as bad as things are, that's also an opportunity because things are so bad that people are willing to try new stuff.
I think we've gotten, I think we've more than assuredly gotten to a point where it's like, this is what I've said since I got into politics when I was 10. Why do we care about the management? We care about the management for the sake of tradition, for the sake of comfort, for the sake of safety. The managers suck. We know that.
Gatekeepers,
yeah. We know this. We know that at any given point that a more creative mind could walk in and take this world by storm. If what's his name? The guy from Tesla. If he ran,
Elon Musk,
Elon Musk ran for president, he wouldn't because he can't see the value in the position.
It's too slow. And frankly, like the way that everything's structured right now,
it's
want
a mess.
the most powerful entity that exists is a C corporation. So it's like, you want to do anything massive, do it through a C corporation and just don't go public. It's like, make the shareholders as few people as you possibly can, and you can do it's
just it becomes this whole thing where, like, even as ridiculous as this is, like, the internet's been great, but the internet also shaves off personal responsibility. And personal responsibility or personal affectation can be positive, it could be negative, it doesn't matter, but it's real. And that's the hardest part to deal with. Like, I had somebody dislike something that I said on the podcast and tell me about it in person. That's a little uncomfortable.
Oh,
it's
God,
fine though. It turned into a conversation. It was fine. That was not a big deal. I also had somebody know the show before I even told them about it. That was fucking awesome too. But like, it's the bending of the reality that, okay, when I pop my phone open and I say something into it, that's nothing. It's not going to anybody. And only when I'm in a room with a person does it ever matter, or does it ever feel real.
Yeah. See, that's not, that's a bunch of,
it's all a total bunch. And you're definitely, you're right around my age, so you would know that that's bullshit. You don't send, you don't send a letter that is, you don't send a threatening letter to anyone because that threatening letter ends up in their mailbox. They open it up, they find out it's from you.
But people have, like, people always, like, what was that? There were slurs on fucking Roman pots. Like, this guy does crappy pots. Our pots are awesome. He's an idiot. It's like, this is part of human nature, that it's like the tool, like, more people have mobile phones with internet access than have toilets at this point in the world, which that is like, the whole, like, seizing the method of production. It's like, we just don't recognize it. And it's like, our brains aren't trained to realize how much impact we can individually have, or we in aggregate can have. It's like the whole idea of participation. I hope that this is also an East Coast thing, but the idea of positive participation instead of just like, oh, a bad thing happened, everybody rally around and go, no. It's like, or, hey, here's a cool thing that's happening. Everybody rally around and do something with this. Like the instant impact that can happen and the long-term things that can be seeded are like, I am so grateful for people having more access to information. And are they going to get the correct information is debatable, but that's also debatable with like who wrote the books, you know, like who wrote the history, who like it's always like you don't get to shirk that it is faster and more intense now, but it's like you always have to have that little bit of like, okay, who is saying this and why?
Right.
Kind of thing going on.
Yeah. And we've gotten to a sociologic point where like enough people can, you know, when I talk to a stranger or I have a small interaction, it's annoying. I hate it so much, but I can break their family history down in a moment, and it's like, and what they've done and all that. And that's not fun, but it removes any intent or reason from whatever they have to say, and it totally deflates life for me. But at the same time, I get it. Like I've gotten to a point where I still don't believe that we are in a computer simulation, but I could see that we are. Like I could totally see that that's what it is, and people have gotten to a point where they're like, that's what it is. It's A, B, give me information, I'm done. We're not, you know, like that's why
the transactional interactions.
And it's like there's so much more to anything than that. Just giving it the surface scratch, like, come on, folks. And we shouldn't have to fight each other to get into that kind of rhythm. And it should feel natural, and it always has felt that, like debating with each other over coffee, cigarette, you know, lit cigarette in an ashtray and a cup of coffee in a Denny's, like that's all life's always been. You're screaming, causing a scene, like, be passionate, be excited.
Like third places. Like, you know the concept of a third place? Oh, it's huge. It's fucking huge. So it's like essentially if you think of like a British pub where it's like everybody stops by, like even if you're not going to have a pint, because like I apologize, all beer makers, but I don't like beer.
Yeah.
You know, it's like just the taste of it. I think my biological father gave me a beer when I was tiny and it was horrible. And so I've never liked beer. It's like if something tastes bad, I don't. I wish somebody had given me like bad chocolate as a little kid. That would have been helpful. But it's these places where, like the edges in permaculture, where you have everybody coming and small, low risk, low pressure interaction on a regular basis, and they build community. And that's like, you know, salons and coffee houses. Made that accessible to different tiers of society. And like that's the whole thing about the like artists are the most dangerous thing. Because there's that mix of society, like the different strata come together and there's a space that's held for people to interact and that kind of thing. And it's like we've lost, like church used to, and this is a very churchy area. Like I am impressed and a little intimidated by how still, and I apologize for, like, I have my own biases because I've had experiences with churchy people and good experiences too. You know, it's like some of the people who have influenced my life the most, I didn't even realize until I was in my 20s. I was like, dude, you're going to church every freaking Sunday and like you talk up at the thingy and that's awesome. But you know, it's like also religion does not make you a good or bad person. But churches used to serve that function in a way that they don't now, because not everybody feels welcome in churches and they can be very silo situations. And, you know, like community groups that used to exist don't exist as much. Like there's the structure of society has changed. You know, people leaving and this is going to sound weird to somebody who, like, I am yay equality, but also when you had the circles of women who used to, like women, when there were fewer women in the workplace, you'd have more women creating society and doing stuff together, and like families would be drawn together because the women were doing stuff together.
Right.
And that has changed. And you have, you know, and York is again an exception to this, but like in Northern Virginia and DC area, highly transitive population. So it's like you don't really have the same kind of places where everybody knows your name essentially. So you have like a place like Ironic is a place that like that is a community generator. It builds community. You have a place where people can come and hang out. They don't have to, really pay attention about like clearing the table to get out for the next person to come in and pay money. It's like it's a different situation. It's a hangout place where everybody can come and chill out. And usually they tend to be places where there's food and drink, but not always. And there's I think that there's a recognition of how valuable third places are in York. And I think that there's a nice push to get them going. And all we have to do is overcome the focus on profit that is usually attached to creating a third place. Like, ideally, my hope is that like through the time bank and stuff like that, there can be some other self-organizing groups. And like, I'd really like to see moms coming together again. And like, not that I'm a mom and I never freaking want kids ever, but I also see like even if they're not a single mom, but it's like or single parents at all, like working so hard. And like, if you're the only single parent in your group of friends, your friends may be there for you to a certain extent. They may be there for you for a lot, but they don't understand exactly what you're going through kind of situation. So like the opportunities for people to come together and understand each other and support each other and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'd like to see that more.
Right. No, that absolutely makes sense. And it's a positive plan because you're right. I'm not a huge fan of religion at all.
It's like it's all metaphor, man. It's like quit looking at the finger, look at the moon, chill the fuck out.
Yeah. And but no, I'm not a huge fan of that. But yeah, we went to I at some point we used to have youth group and we do stuff together and it was really fun because I met a whole bunch of different people and it it makes sense. It does. It makes it one of those things where I fully agree that ironic is it reminds me of the old the old Viennese post office idea.
I've never been there.
It was so Vienna. That was their post. Their post office was their beer hall. Their that was their community center.
Perfect. Yeah.
And so that that's how that all started. And ironic, they do that, and it's just it's just there and it's natural and it's not marked.
It's not forced and it's from a genuine place and you can feel that it's from a genuine place because you can feel when something's bullshit. There's like a feel of when something's awkward and unsure and then there's no, this is total bullshit. And that's that's a totally and they are not bullshit.
No, absolutely not. There's just an honesty and it was there was the proof of concept. They thought it would work out and they tried it and it fucking worked. Man. And it's great. And it doesn't need to be endlessly emulated. It doesn't need to be endlessly emulated. It doesn't. We're good.
Well, and everything everything should have its own personality. Like the people creating a thing and the reason that they're creating a thing and their place they're creating the thing should all have that unique flavor. It's like you don't need chains of stuff. I'm both. I have mixed feelings about the chain restaurant that's in the middle of downtown, but it's like, hey, there's jobs going on. And
they do great stuff, and we needed this. I'll be honest, we needed a sandwich shop.
Yeah,
that's the one thing. I used to work at the sub joint there on George Street, and it was the best place to be at lunch. And everybody that was walking in, my old judge who sent me to prison twice. No, Judge Kennedy, wonderful human being. I'd see him. I'd see him every day. Not every day, but 3 times a week. I knew what he wanted. Get to talk to him for a few minutes, and it was nice. And it was everybody came down there, and it makes sense. So
and the casual interactions. We need the opportunity for casual interactions. And you've got have you ever read Happy City?
No.
Oh my God. I read it this summer and I love the book. And I had to spend the first quarter of it. I was so pissed off.
Yeah.
Because it was I knew that some of these systems, the whole, when you have a subdivision situation, little cookie cutter houses, and a lot of them don't even have sidewalks and stuff like that. So it's isolating people.
Yeah.
So it's you've got subdivisions, air conditioning, and cable TV, and then good luck society. It's you have all these things, and then you have the added layer of people dealing with so many different kinds of trauma, whether it's just being a weirdo in high school, and like that can be traumatic, or some kind of abuse and that's traumatic. Like everybody's got their own kind of issues they're dealing with, and there's all these things that are spoon-fed. It's like, this will make you feel better, like buy this, it'll make you feel better, do this, it'll make you feel better, instead of like actually the things that will make you feel better. Like the rat park experiments. Are you familiar with like the cocaine rats?
No. I love cocaine. I'm okay with rats. Let's talk about it.
So there were these scientists who, and I apologize, I don't remember the school that did the study, but there was a study done where they were studying cocaine addiction, and they would get these rats addicted to cocaine, and then give them unlimited access to cocaine laced water, regular water, cocaine laced water, and put them in little cages and stuff, and they would OD in short order. They would just, build it up. And then they would take cocaine addicted rats and put them in a rat park where it was like there was all this interesting stuff to do. There were other rats. It was like it was a natural, entertaining environment that was what rats were meant to do. Like be together, do stuff, explore things, all that kind of stuff. And gave them unlimited access to cocaine, and they would wean themselves off of it.
Really?
Yep, by themselves. And it's one of those things where it's like, I firmly fucking believe, and I would love to be in a position to explore it, like do actual social experiments where it's like, hey, why don't we take a bunch of people who are suffering with a whole bunch of stuff and reduce the barriers to whatever they're supposed to be doing in this life, and make a situation where they're in their own kind of rat park. They're with people who are supportive, that understand them, all that kind of stuff. They're doing stuff that makes them happy. They're able to learn stuff, explore stuff, like all that kind of stuff, and see what happens, like it in a totally consensual, not creepy, like, trading places kind of way.
No, nothing like that. Nothing weird like that. But
it's like most of the stuff for like overcoming. Like, I have a lot of friends who will never try a 12-step program because of the first, like, you have to give up, or in the first couple of steps, it's like you have to say that, like, you give all of your control to God. And it's like, for some people that works, but especially for women, and especially for non-religious women, that's a big fucking deal. It's like, no, thank you. We have no control already. Fuck off. So it's like you have this situation where it's like I'd like to try a lot more stuff, create more spaces for people to do their thing. Yeah,
no, I fully agree with that, because it's definitely like from my experience as a user for a while, as a cocaine user for a while. It really was just our thing. It was like me and 5 people, and it was just our thing, and it was great, and we'd do it together, and then we'd come together and we'd do it, and then we wouldn't go outside of the house, and it was awesome, and nobody would bring anybody with them, and it was, and then every other relationship that I had, or friendship that I had, kind of faltered at that time, and I was like, oh, yeah, I should stop doing that. And it was just, I need to get more active, and like that's what this does. That is what this does for me, is that, like, 100%. I could just hide out in my truck and become a weirdo. I could live in that. It has 2 beds in the back. I could live in it.
Yep.
I could skip this place and live in it.
When I was at the farm, there would be like months that I never left it. But I mean, there was the issue of couldn't afford gas a lot of times. Like I wanted to volunteer at Horn Farm to do stuff when I first got here, and I drove there for one volunteer meeting. Was like, oh fuck, I can't afford to volunteer. So like that was the thing, but like having people, it's like I will select the shiny people who will come to my little den, and let's do cool stuff in my little den. Okay, awesome, bye people. And be like, in your own space for a very long. I can see that, and I understand. And I'm putting a big, huge asterisk on disclaimer. I'm saying this wrong, but I understand that solitary confinement is horrific and hugely damaging to people. At the same time, it was like, whoa, I can imagine like if you could set your own little place up, and like you knew that eventually you would be able to get out someday. I could see how, like being isolated completely for a little while would be fucking divine.
Oh yeah.
But
it's one of those things where if the option's there, it's not as it's not as emotionally crippling. But it's,
and if you're not a massive extrovert, I imagine that's probably the cruelest thing ever to do to a massive extrovert.
It's the worst. A couple of toxic relationships. Not doing anything. Look, I'm tired of seeing you. I want to go have fun. I'm not trying to put my dick in anyone. Leave me alone. Yes, I get it. I'm flirtatious. I'm fucking aware. Doesn't matter. Like, no. Anyway, so Where were we? Oh yeah, that's right. So you
All
you
over the
ended your
place.
relationship with the farm fella.
Well,
or
it was
lady?
it was a fellow when I helped someone who was transgender actually begin living as a woman.
Oh.
Which was very interesting. And I'm very glad, I'm very glad that I was able, very grateful for being able to take part in that experience, because they didn't think that they would be able to. They never thought they'd be able to have a relationship, all that kind of stuff. And that part was wonderful. But, just because somebody's transgender doesn't mean they're not a dick. And
Yeah.
there were long-term and it's like neither one of us were in the relationship with the person that we went into the relationship with. Like, before I got into the relationship, before I moved to Baltimore, I had done Atkins for a year, and I had done the 20 carbs a day for a year, which sort of broke that idea for me. It's like, you have no willpower. You can't do anything. It was like, oh, hell no. I've just never had the urge to apply it in the same way. Because it's like, I would go out to dinner with friends, and it's like, if I didn't know for sure how many carbs were in a thing, I wouldn't eat anything more than a few times. And that is so fucking awkward. It's like, no, you guys eat dinner. I'm going to sit here with my water. It's fine.
Yeah. I totally, I 100% feel your pain, because I got to a point where I needed to change my entire life. And I did it through, I guess it's ketogenesis.
Yeah. Yep.
Technically, but mine's modified Atkins. I take none in, and I take no flour, nothing, to a point where I'm allergic to flour again. It's annoying.
Well, if you're actually allergic to flour, don't actually try ancient grains. But the kinds of grains that we're eating now are not the grains that we used to eat.
Yeah,
our systems aren't made for it. Blah blah blah. Anyway,
no, I've heard that before, but that is one of those it's the most awkward thing in the entire world to go, because our most social part of existence is
breaking bread. Yeah. I was invited to some friends' Samhain ceremony, where you're supposed to take bread and take a drink of stuff while it goes around. And it was like, okay, well, I'll play this. I'll represent this particular role, because I literally can't taste any of this. So yeah, I'll be the people who can't. There you go. And it was very interesting. But I had lost around 100 pounds, and was because I had thought I was heavy since I was 6, and I look at my pictures of this stick thin little kid, and it's like, who the fuck was telling me I was? Oh my god. Yeah. So it's like, what you think becomes reality, especially when you're shoving your face with cheeseburgers. But anyway. Yeah. So I'd done this. I was in a place where I was very happy. I was confident in a way that I had never been in my life before. And got into this relationship by accident. It was just supposed to be a one-night stand. It wasn't supposed to be anything serious. But then it turned into that. And through the process of the relationship, when stuff started getting bad, it was like I started gaining weight again. And it was like, oh, yes, you are not addicted to food. You are abusing food. If you were into alcohol, you'd be a fucking drunk by now, legit, going into for failing organs. You were using food to soothe emotional pain. That's not good. But also, I don't know how to solve the trauma on my own, kind of thing. It's a thing that's going to need a therapist at some point, which would probably need insurance at some point. But any of that kind of stuff. So I got fat again, and they became a woman. And we had been best friends, but then some shit happened. There's best friends don't do that to each other. It's and I apologize, people, this is TMI, and I'm not going to use their name, but I was organizing my mom's funeral, and not only were they not interested in coming down to be supportive, but they were busy cheating on somebody in my bed while I was organizing my mom's funeral. So that was kind of an awkward end to that.
That's entirely.
It sucked. And it was also unexpected. It was this thing, we'd had an unconventional relationship, but it was still that was a beyond the pale kind of thing. Right. And fortunately, I was reading this book about how people deal with shame while the breakup was going on. It was like, oh, so this person is turning into this raving jackass, this totally unknown person that behaving in ways that I had never seen them behave before. And it's because they're ashamed. I'm assuming I'm projecting. That's how I could deal with it and not go batshit completely insane. But that's how they're dealing with it, is because they're ashamed of what they did. They're being a dick. Okay, I get it. Be a dick over there. And I was still trying to, turn the farm into a food forest.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out that way. But in the process of during the long process of because I think we had like a year and a half of trying to turn the farm into a food forest. Where I was learning okay, it's not we're going to support each other's dreams. It's just I'm going to support your dream, and you're going to have fun, smoking pot and doing video games. Neither of which is bad, but it's like if all you're doing,
if that's all you got going on, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, it's it's not. There's not going to be much left to do. It's like that's not my thing, so we can't do that together, and that sucks. My thing was trying to do this moonshot, totally unrealistic, but if you don't try, you're guaranteed to fail situation. And in that process, I joined up for this reporter source thing, that help a reporter out, and they were looking, there was a call out, there's do you and your partner live and work in an unusual circumstance? I was like, haha, yes we do. And it turned out that there was a production company looking for people for a reality show. And I was like, can you imagine? That's the worst fucking thing on the planet. And my ex, my now ex, was like, oh, I would love to have cameras on me all the time. And I was like, you psychopath. But we'd get a lot of exposure for the campaign for the farm. And so I started looking into this thing and discovering how toxic the unscripted industry was, how the network model is network TV is imploding right now. Everything's moving. And this was in 2013 that I started researching. In 2014 that I started actively trying to, get our own unscripted thing happening. But I didn't have the language for content marketing, and I was trying to explain it to people back then without the language and without a company behind me. And they're like, we don't understand what this is. We've never done it, so we're not going to try. And it's like, we've never done it, so we're not going to try. And then when all of that stuff went sideways, where my mom got diagnosed with lung cancer and died in a couple of weeks, and the bad breakup with my ex, and then essentially in a matter of a few months, I lost my mom, I lost my relationship, I lost my best friend, because it was they just turned into a total jackass. It's the relationship was on its way out, but I thought we would be friends afterwards. But you have to participate in if you want to uncouple, it takes two people to uncouple, and that wasn't gonna work. And so lost the dream of the farm, lost lost all of this stuff at once. And then it was okay, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to go back to Baltimore, do a 9 to 5? I'm going to go to DC, do a 9 to 5? No fucking way. It's if I'm going to do anything, if I'm going to stay on this planet, I'm going to go all the fucking way. And my long-term dream, the closest thing I can call it right now is a resiliency incubator, which is essentially creating these little intentional communities within a city where it's all of the people who are creating value have universal basic income, and the barriers to their creating cool shit and doing cool stuff that impacts community are removed, so that they can just do stuff, whether they're artists, whether they're urban farmers, whether they're, philosophers, whatever the fuck it is that's generating the culture in that space. Cultivate that. And, give them as many opportunities as the government gives giant corporations. And see if that can, test it in York, test it in Baltimore, test it in New Orleans and Detroit. And then hopefully by then there's a repeatable model that maybe it can go into different places, and maybe we can turn some tides, that kind of thing, which is a hugely ambitious thing. But essentially we're subsidizing, ideally, if it all works out, subsidizing these different projects with unscripted entertainment that's brand integrated. So it's essentially the corporations that are causing the problems are paying to fix them.
Oh,
yeah,
that makes
ideally,
sense.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, that makes sense. And if it works, it works. And give it the time and give it the effort. To see to have the chance to see if it works. I mean, that's the beautiful thing of it is you're creating stories about creating stories, and it's it's a wonderful reciprocation that I fully agree. Make it easier for people to be happy and free. And I think I was talking, the last episode was if you didn't go to college, you'd work a job, and then but would his art be the same if he was doing that, or working full time? Would it be the same? And it's like, yeah, if you have that kind of environment, will it be the same? Who knows?
Yeah.
You know, it'd be the
Of course not.
Yeah.
Because the situation changes it. But is the heart going to be the same? Is what they're trying to express going to be the same? Yes. Will it be expressed differently? Yes.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. I think that's really wonderful, and it's like, UBI is a wonderful thing, and I think the people that are against it are the people that are expecting everyone to be advantageous of it. But the actuality is, if 25% of the people that you give it to actually use it as a platform to expand horizons and expand thinking, then it'll be worth it and more than valuable in the end.
Exactly. It's like the Google Fridays, where like at Google, there's a day of the week or 2 days of the week now. There's a chunk of time of everybody's week where you're allowed to work on anything that you want to, absolutely anything. And you've got all the resources of Google. You've got all the people, like you can connect with anybody at Google you want to work on anything you can dream up.
Yeah.
And that's where so much of Google's stuff has come out of just give people give creative people, or at least people who want to try stuff, the resources and get out of their fucking way. And they're going to make cool shit. And yes, there's going to be some people who maybe they're late bloomers. Maybe there's going to be people who are, I honestly believe that, like, I think people at the core are good. That doesn't mean that we don't do horrible shit, especially when there's an environment where other people are doing horrible shit and we're pressured or expected to, like the artist who did she stood in one place and let people do anything. Yeah. And I think that had in the first 5 minutes of that situation, somebody stood up and go, dude, fucking stop, be nice. And like somebody had done some kind things that would have turned the tide.
Yeah.
But it didn't. And it's like the difference between like a swarm and a mob is like, are you building something together or are you tearing something down?
Yeah.
So it's like just cultivate situations where the people building stuff together or building something up can. And there's going to be some people who are damaged, and there's going to be people who don't know what their passion is. But if you also have systems in place where people can heal their damage or have access to ways to heal their damage, or benevolently use the social pressure of people doing cool stuff for each other to encourage the people who maybe otherwise would just sit on their ass and watch TV to do cool stuff.
Yeah.
I think some really nifty things could happen.
Yeah, I absolutely. And it's one of those things as well that it's like, my generalized fear would be that, the difference between a swarm and a mob is leadership, and there comes a point where leadership becomes the only focus, and it's like we're vaulting up. Not to be
in a traditional way, in a hierarchical way.
Yeah, not to be petulant to any of my prior guests who may listen to this, but it gets to this point where it's this reciprocal vacuum of the idea of leadership, and we're in a room with 15,000 leaders, and somebody's at the front leading these leaders and teaching them how to lead, but they aren't doing a fucking thing at all.
Have you read the Swarm Management, the guy who did the pirate party in Sweden?
No.
It's like a totally different it went from the pirate party went from a comment on a like a jokey comment, like haha kind of thing on a bulletin board, to a party that's actually taking over the government.
Yeah.
But the thing in it, like, you create a very clear, like, what are we trying to do? What are the parameters? And then make it possible for people in small groups to self-organize around that. And if people start to spin off, it's like, that's awesome. Rock on. You're doing your own thing. Good on you. That's not what this is, but we encourage you to spin off and do your own thing. But you have a core around which people, they don't need the kind of leadership that we think we need. It's like we're very focused on control leadership as opposed to, I don't even know how to phrase it, like engaging, inspirational, like, hey, let's go this way together. And then we all know where we're going, what we're aiming for, and everybody can do it in different ways. And it's going to be messy and confusing. And maybe you don't see the pattern until it's like halfway there. But it's totally different. We can do it. And it doesn't have to be a bunch of leaders. It can be a bunch of participants.
Yeah. Well, it's the issue with this this idea of parentage leadership, where it's, okay, hold my hand and tell me where to go. Like I have an issue where if I need to make lists of things that I have to do. because it's not commonplace for me to have them in me, right?
Yeah.
But that's not an issue for me, especially when it's like I just need to develop a routine. That's how I go.
Get a file of facts.
And
Yay.
so like we have this idea of like parentage routine or a parentage leadership where it's like, okay, we're gonna go this way, hold my hand, we're gonna go this way, and then you're looking up at mommy and dad at figurehead, mommy and daddy, you're gonna take the blame for this, right? And
tell me how to walk and tell me what to be thinking and all of those kind of things.
When reasonably, like to me, after good God, 3 years of studying leadership, leadership is knowing when to apply wolf logic to everything, which is know when to be an alpha, know when to be an omega, or know when to be a beta and know when to be an omega and present your throat. There is no such thing as a solid A. A solid A is not real. It is, you need to know when you're on top and you know when you need to know when you're on the bottom, and you need to be confident and there's no self-affirmation to it. It's just be confident and believe, and that's it, and go with it, and it'll come. And if it's natural, it'll feel right, and if it's not natural,
benefiting the pack at the moment.
Exactly.
Because environments change, situations change, packs change.
Yeah,
it's like you got to adapt constantly, or you're gonna be ground into hamburger.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, you cannot, there is no such thing as a solid a solid foundation, because you're just a boat in the sea, and your boat will take on water if you stand there and poke holes in it.
The only constant is change.
Yes, it's silliness, and and that's all of it, folks. Like, look, if you ever feel like buying one of those self-help books, don't. Just listen back to those last 5 minutes. But yeah, don't kill anybody either. That's not cool. No, so yeah. So anyway, I didn't realize how long this had gone on, but you're a wonderful human being to converse with, and no. So when's the next Dr. Sketchy's is second Friday of December, correct?
It's
so that'd be
every
the 7th.
Second Friday. Yeah.
So that would be the 8th. No.
I
yes.
think it is the 8th.
Yes, it would be the 8th.
Yeah. And we don't know which of the models will be performing yet. But there will be a model.
Cool.
The first one, we actually, the crowd that was there, only 2 of the people had ever been to a burlesque performance.
Oh.
So we took a vote, and it was like, no, let's just do another long pose. So it's like, we're going to be the first couple while it's sort of gelling, like the vibe of the unique space is gelling. The performance or not performance is going to be based on the crowd. It's like, if at least half the crowd hasn't ever been to a burlesque performance before, we'll probably do another long pose, because I don't want to traumatize anybody. Like, there were some really nice little old ladies where it's like, oh God, yeah, don't throw any underwear on them.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like,
I'm making assumptions. That's assumptions that maybe I didn't need to make. But there were also people who it's like, I would love another long pose. So
yeah. Well, yeah, that's I do agree that like the crowd matters. It's not. That's the other thing about the constancy of change is like, look, if your crowd's not laughing at your jokes, make different jokes.
Yeah.
It's just do that.
Yep.
It's easier that way, because burlesque is one of those. I'm actually like super fast. I'm super fascinated with boudoir, because at this point I'm so over inundated with everything erotic in this life that I'm like, all right, you know what? No, I would rather see somebody in really nice underwear. That's fine with me.
The costumes are just amazing. And they make, like, so many of the artists, like, make their own stuff or, like, take something super cool. I mean, and that, frankly, the costumes are, like, the big, it's like, that's, like, maybe 60% of the draw for, like, the particular, like, what costume do you have to go do this thing?
Yeah. And that's one of the other things that I think is, like, really, really fascinating to people, too, is, like, when you make anything custom, like tailorship and dressmaking are they're not a dead art. They are just not used enough.
Because there's not places for individual craft makers and artisans to have, a place where they could afford to live and do their cottage industry.
Yeah.
In New York yet.
And it's like, so like to see to see a man in a tailored suit, you know the difference.
Yeah.
Rather than grab it off the rack, or to see, if you see a nice woman and she has like that doesn't hang right under the arms, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
to see something that's like custom made to that person, like it's more fascinating because it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's like because that was something we always did and we just don't do it anymore.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Although with 3D manufacturing, that might change.
That's
You know,
true.
it's be really like there's already companies out there that are using 3D models to make clothes. It'd be really cool if like you could walk into a Target and there was like a 3D scanning booth, and then any clothing that you ordered. And maybe like there was a machine that made it right there, and I'll shush now because it's like, ooh, and if they were using the mycelium substrate, if it didn't work, you could just put it right back in your cycle. But I'll shush.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
The world is such an exciting place right now.
It really is. Did you? I was gonna say, are you a mushroom fan as well?
Oh my god.
Are you a forager?
No, I'm
Okay.
not because I would be, and I have wandered before, but I have not foraged mushrooms. I would probably need adult supervision, but I am super enamored by what they can do. Like mushrooms, like the mycelium running. It's like mushrooms can clean up oil spills. Mushrooms can eat plastic. Mushrooms can make things that are radio fucking active. They can take radioactive material and they're not radioactive. It's like they're the freaking like and this turkey vultures and mushrooms, but turkey vultures can eat plague and poop out not plague. Like it's gross, but it's like it's these things that like transform these things that are horrible and make them good. And yes, in general, I'm a fan of mushrooms.
I think they're the most wonderful thing in the world.
Yes.
I have my I forget what that's even called over there. But over there on the top shelf is my chainsaw.
Oh,
mushroom.
yeah, the moral.
Yeah.
Yay.
That's it. It's a moral because I've been searching for them for 4 years and I've seen so many of my friends have the luck of just
There were some on the farm.
No, it was just I was roaming around. I was roaming around the F&M campus, and look what I found. You know what? I spent 4 hours walking around Laurel Lake. Could you not be a jerk to me right now? Good lord!
At the bioluminescence, like the fact that you get like
jack-o'-lanterns. I found jack-o'-lanterns once and almost ate them. I'm glad I didn't because they're deadly.
Yeah, that's the other thing is so many of them look like each other.
Yeah, we have about 150 species here in Pennsylvania that are edible that grow on. They're very easy to pick out as well.
Yeah.
So.
And we've got new mushroom farms popping up too, which is good.
That are doing weird, fun stuff with all the other like not just white mushrooms.
Yay!
Which I mean, it's great that we have that powerhouse that is southeast Lancaster County, I guess, and Southwest Philadelphia. But we have these beautiful giant mushroom farms that don't like hurt anybody. They're great. And then we got people that are starting to understand that I can't remember what they are. That oysters are delicious and they come in all colors. And because I had a log and it was a multi-spore and it grew
like a little rainbow.
Yeah, it grew really beautiful. It grew really beautiful pinks the first time, and then when I re-soaked it, it was they came out like a yellowish orange. And then they got infected. So I was bummed, so I had to throw my log out.
Sad.
Yeah, because I have the second floor of my garage is completely open. I was just gonna convert it because I can't have chickens.
Cool. Oh.
I can't have animals. No farm animals in the borough, but I can have a mushroom farm
Maybe
instead.
Helfrich will help change that. Maybe we can start
He's
having
not.
chickens.
No, I don't want him to have the power to change it.
Okay,
You keep that. You leave me. You leave me in the Westbrook Borough, please. I like my little 4 blocks. You leave us alone.
Okay.
No, we were supposed to be part of West Manchester Township, but for whatever reason they won't. And the city water, the York Water Company bought out our sewer system, so I think the actuality is that West York's going to become part of York City at some point, because it's this block and the next, and then all the way down to the fairgrounds.
This little strange magic area, which is funny to be a strange magic area in a strange magic town. Yeah, but
it's just this is one of those places where this was built up as homes. That's it. Like they did the math on it, and they were like, 99.46% of West York is single family residences.
Oh,
There's not really many businesses.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, that's fine. We'll leave it that way.
Yeah.
So,
nice.
who knows? But it's, it is only, I think it's like 3 square, not even, it's probably 2 square miles of space. But whatever. Anyway, no, I'm glad that Mike got in, and he's a wonderful human being, and I'm really glad to see what happens because he's hope. He's excitement, he is what's next. So
I'm fingers crossed, because we've got, like, the time bank has a whole bunch of projects that were verbally okayed, and it was like, oh shit, this is why people do, like, written agreements. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
but they're also, fingers crossed, they're good for York in general. So
yeah, I think you'd be
hopeful.
all right.
Yeah, because I definitely I want an excuse to have the damn unicorn petting zoo, because we're doing the Gallivanting Goats public sculpture project. Where it's like cows on parade or the ducks in Harrisburg and stuff, but we're doing goats.
Oh, cool.
And we chose goats because it's an excuse, legitimately an excuse, to have a unicorn petting zoo and a baby goat fashion show and all that kind of stuff as like events to. It could be any other York applicable thing, but fucking goats, man. Any excuse.
I agree, and they're such wonderful things, and I'm really excited to see what Mike does with Penn Street Market, and I'm really excited to see like small urban farms developing and urban spaces developing. It's gonna be a good goddamn time. I think.
Yeah, it's like York has the potential to, like, we could be a solar punk city. Like, we could very easily be a whole little like a prototype for other places. Like, you want to be this cool, and you can, but you're still not York.
It's just I think we've got a lot going on, and there's so much to it, and there's a million reasons why it got the way it was, and it's just like, all right, let's get over it. And honestly, like, my biggest thing for the sake of York is, since we do have so many commuters in and out and all that, is like, all right, let's extend the light rail. For God's sake. Yeah. Or let's let Amtrak come through, so I don't have to go to Lancaster, park my car, and then pay to.
Isn't the Hyperloop coming through here?
I have no idea.
Okay.
No, I don't know. What is the Hyperloop? Why do I not know that? Why do I not know about this? I thought that was Texas or something.
No, they're doing a Hyperloop through, like, from New York all the way down. Like the Hyperloop, where you put your car on an underground train, it's like you pull up to a place on the side of the street, and then bloop, your car's underground, and you're not driving it, and it's like, this is both terrifying and exciting, and terrifying and
no, that's awesome.
Exciting.
I'm totally fine with that. I knew he was doing Los Angeles to Vegas because people are tired.
Yeah,
of driving
he's doing
in the
some
desert.
East Coast stuff too.
Oh,
yeah, I thought it was coming.
No, I'll have to look into that. But yeah, I was gonna say 1957 was the last time we had passenger service here in York, and I think it would really open us back up, because that really did give us this, like, kind of isolation where we have to buy a faster car to get the fuck out of this place.
Yeah.
Back then.
Or build up a system in which you can stay here more affordably.
Yeah, or put our trolleys back in and get them to go from Lancaster to York
fucking
to
cute,
Gettysburg.
And that would really drive tourism, frankly.
I know. I swear, it's like people have great ideas and they just need to be heard.
Yep. Or funded. Like, being heard is one thing, and being funded is a totally different thing. Yeah. It's like shush. Yeah.
No, I got you. But, well, I've taken up 2 hours of your time. Am I missing anything?
Yeah, but that would take another 2 hours. So Dr. Sketchy's is awesome. It's the second Friday of every month. The Time Bank is fucking awesome. Please, everybody, join the Time Bank. Okay. Because an alternative currency that uses time instead of money benefits everybody. And as soon as there are 300 members, it apparently becomes a functioning currency, because somebody going to find a particular thing, the chances of you actually finding somebody available to do that thing are higher. So it's still kind of like clunky now, but as it's building, more people joining, better.
Is that like a bartering? Is the idea of the time like a bartering system, or?
It's exactly like the Time Bank itself is a platform that allows people to do the same kind of favors that you do among friends. Like, it's not barter. It is not identified as barter. Like, the IRS has approached time banking several times, and it's been, decided that it is decidedly not barter, because it's not between two people. Okay. So it's like, if, let's say, I walk your dog, and then I get a time bank hour. You pay me a time bank hour, goes into the time bank. I have a time bank hour. I can then go get, like, a massage from this other time bank member, or get this other get this other time bank member to do photographs, or get another time bank member to teach me how to speak a different language, or that kind of stuff. So it is a bank. Oh, wow. Where it's time is literally money. Oh. And it does a lot of, like, especially when there's areas that have economic instability. It can give people a lot of resources. And then when you have a situation where it's like, you have a single mom who can't afford childcare, but she could watch kids a couple nights a week. All of a sudden you get a bunch of moms together. Everybody's able to do stuff again, because it's like you're trading, you're trading your services with each other. It's like, okay, I'll watch your kids. And then awesome, I have the ability to have somebody else watch my kids, or fix a sink, or like all of these different things that don't involve money. It's just time, and everybody's time is the same. It's like everybody has 24 hours.
Right.
So it's mildly revolutionary.
That's cool.
And it's so simple and easy that people are always confused when they approach it. It's like, just imagine it's a bank and your hour is money, and there you go. So like, especially when there's like if there's events and stuff, or organizations in the community that you volunteer for, we're trying to connect with as many organizations and stuff. Like we've got Creative York hooked up. So it's like, if you volunteer for Creative York, you can get time bank dollars for every hour that you're volunteering. And then that's a way for organizations to like say thank you to their members without having to have money, or, buy tons of swag that they couldn't afford or could be using on programs instead. So it's one of those.
Yeah. That's really, really sensible.
Hopefully a linchpin.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's now that you've explained it to me.
Yay.
100% makes sense.
That's mostly the thing. It's like, if I could just have like 20 minutes to talk with everybody, that's all I'd ever do is talk with people instead of actually doing cool stuff.
Yeah.
Which would drive me crazy.
No, you're fine. Sorry, excuse me. No, that's really cool. And anything else there, Couch Surfer?
Not at the moment. It'll be very interesting to see what happens in December and January. Okay. Because that's when we're hoping to really get going with the Southworth project. Fingers crossed. Okay. Which is the thing with the unscripted.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, come back and tell me all about that.
Okay, we'll do.
Everything else. So please feel free. You're always welcome.
Yay, thank you. I really appreciate that. This has been delightful.
Yeah, it really has been. Is that a moonstone on your...
This one's sunstone.
Okay.
And I do have a moonstone. This is Moldavite, and I often wear like the sun, the moon, and the stars.
That makes sense.
But I only grabbed these two on the way out the door.
No, it's really pretty. I bought Katie a moonstone once, and it looked. I couldn't figure out if it was jade or if it was something like. Yeah. I kept looking. I'm colorblind,
it's got
so the iridescence.
the same flash. Yeah. It's from the feldspar family. Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm such a rock nerd. But I love rocks.
There's nothing wrong with that. So, well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And is there any like specific website that everybody should visit? Right.
Let's see. drsketchy's York.com, york.timebanks.org.
Okay.
And Eleanor Justice if they want, but that one's kind of boring.
I got you. You're not boring at all. You wish.
Thank you.